On this edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the flyweight title fight taking place at UFC 331 between Joshua Van and Alexandre Pantoja. My name is James Lynch. If you never watched the show before, I'm going through a bunch of different stats and intangibles. Then I'll give you my prediction for this fight at the end. After you're done watching this video, go to the comment section. Let me know your prediction for this fight. A really exciting one coming up here. September 19th, going to be taking place at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. You can see here, it does still say rumored at the time I'm recording this. They're going to confirm it soon. Pretty much everyone knows this fight's going to happen regardless, unless something happens, knock on wood. But yeah, just wanted to point that out in case you're wondering why it says that. But, 99% sure this fight's happening on UFC 331. All right. Let's get to a quick tale of the tape between the two. The current flyweight champion, Joshua Van, 17-2. Pantoja, 30-6, 24-36. A big age gap there, 5'5" apiece, 65-68. So Pantoja going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. He's also 11 years older than Joshua Van. But let's start first with the current flyweight champion, Joshua Van, who has that nice 18-2 record. Sorry, 17-2 record. That's what I meant to say. He is 24 years old. I mentioned there, 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. So he'll be 11 years younger than his opponent. He's got 8 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 8 decisions throughout his career. Sorry, 9 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 6 decisions. Messed that one up. He's the current flyweight champion. Like I mentioned, he's the second youngest UFC flyweight champion in history, or second youngest UFC champion in history behind John Jones. He's the first male UFC champion born in the 2000s. He's the first Asian-born male UFC champion. He's got fight of the night one time against Brandon Royval. He successfully defended his title in his last fight against Tatsuro Taira. Didn't have an amateur debut, went straight to the pros in 2021, which is crazy. So sorry, he did have an amateur career. It was December of 2020 and then made his amateur debut in October of 2021. So keep that in mind. Made that UFC debut in June of 2023. So just a couple years after he made his pro debut, he's in the UFC. He is 11-1 in the UFC. He's got 5 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Tatsuro Taira, Brandon Royval, and Bruno Silva. I'm not going to count the Pantoja as a win because we just didn't get a fight. It was an injury that fight happened. People may not like that, but 26 seconds, we didn't get a fight. I'm sorry. We got an injury. That's all we got. His only loss is to Charles Johnson, a fight that he was doing quite well in, but got knocked out in the 3rd round. Charles Johnson's like the boogeyman at flyweight, having some pretty big wins. He's been pretty active since joining the UFC. If you look at it there, had 2 fights in 2023, had 2 fights in 2024. Sorry, 4 fights in 2024. 2025, he had 4 fights. And then this year, this will be his 2nd fight. So kind of slowing down a little bit, which is interesting. Van has not had any close fights. They've all been pretty decisive. If we go look at his stats here, very impressive. Look at the significant strikes landed per minute, 8.43. That's one of the highest I've ever seen on the UFC stats page. That's really impressive. Striking accuracy is at 57%. Strikes landed per minute is 5.82. Striking defense is at 58%, so it doesn't get hit that much. Takedown average is 0.82. Takedown accuracy 61%. Takedown defense is 75%. That'll certainly be tested in this fight. Taira did get 8 takedowns on him in their fight, so that'll be interesting. So that's everything you need to know about the current flyweight champion, Joshua Van. Let's look over to his opponent here, Alexandre Pantoja. 30-6 record, you can see there. He's got 8 knockouts, 12 submissions, and 10 decisions. He is 34 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. So the only advantage he'll have is that he's got a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. Trains out of American Top Team. Forgot to mention that Joshua Van trains at a 4-ounce fight club in Texas. Did not have an amateur debut. Pantoja made his pro debut in July of 2007, made his UFC debut in January of 2017. He's 14-4 in the UFC. He's got 8 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include 3 wins over Brandon Moreno, 2 wins over Kai Kara France, Wilson Hayes, Manel Kopp, Brandon Royval, Alex Perez, 2 wins over Brandon Royval, I should say, Steve Urseg, and Kai Asakura. He's lost to Dustin Ortiz, Davis Figueroa, Askar Askarov, and we'll say Joshua Van, but again, more of an injury in that fight. This is not the longest layoff of his career. If you look at the Brandon Royval to Perez, going from Brandon Royval to Steve Ursig, there was a 343-day layoff. The first Royval fight to Alex Perez, there was a 343-day layoff. Going from Perez to Moreno, there was a 343-day layoff. And then going from Van to Van, there's only a 287-day layoff. So he's had longer layoffs. Just the concern, obviously, is him coming off an injury. He's had a couple close fights throughout his career. One of them being the... I hear people talking about the Manel Kopp fight being close, but if you go look on MMADecisions.com, that fight was back when, that was a long time ago, 2021. 17 media members scored the fight for Pantoja, 0 media members scored the fight for Kopp. So some people do bring up that fight as being close. It wasn't really that close. Let's take a look at Pantoja's stats here. 4.38 significant strikes landed per minute. Striking accuracy is at 50%. Striking defense is 49%, so he does get hit a little bit here, which is concerning against a very good striker in Van. Takedown average is 2.79. Takedown accuracy is 47%. His takedown defense is 69%. And the sub average is 1.0. We do not have betting odds right now. I would imagine Van's going to be the favorite, though, just with the way he performed in that last fight. Tapology gives us a little bit of a hint here. 65% of people picking Joshua Van, 35% picking Alexandre Pantoja. The majority of people picking Van, 53.3% by decision, but they also feel he can knock him out. 46.3% say knockout by KO TKO. For Pantoja, 29.6 by decision, 66.4 by submission. That's how most people think Pantoja will win, and only 4% saying by knockout. I've gone back and forth on this fight because I do think Pantoja is very good, but I think you got to go with Joshua Van here. Now, I think the big question is, does he win by knockout or does he win by decision? I'm leaning more towards decision. The 49% striking defense by Pantoja is a bit concerning. But part of the reason, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I'm going with Van here, but let's go through kind of the nuts and bolts as to why I'm picking Van here. I think decision is more likely. If you look at Van, 53% of his wins are by knockout, but again, it's tough to see him. Royval, he almost finished him in that fight. Maybe he finishes it if it's a 5-round fight. He had a couple fights earlier in his career where he was not able to get the knockout. We've seen a little bit more decision wins from Van. Actually, I think it's about even. Right? So we'll see. I don't know. I just think Pantoja has been pretty durable throughout his career. You got to go all the way back to, well, he's only been knocked out. Well, his only TKO loss is the injury in his last fight. Outside that, he's never been finished. So those odds, I think, do favor more of Van decision than that as well. So like I mentioned, the last fight was just 26 seconds. It was an injury. Tough to kind of gauge from that. One thing I look at, though, because obviously the fight starts standing, look at this significant difference in striking from Van to Taira in this fight. And Taira's like right there with Joshua Van. 131 to 55. The striking wasn't even close. And then you look at the overall strikes, 190 to 100. So he was making Taira miss a lot. That's really impressive against a top flyweight, who, by the way, Taira was favored in that fight. He was supposed to win, and he didn't end up doing it. So that's kind of interesting. When he fought Royval, he got outstruck. But kind of what I mean is you're seeing an evolution in Van, and I think we saw that in the Taira fight as well. Now, the concerning thing, like I mentioned there, Taira did get 8 takedowns. If you look at Pantoja, he typically does get a lot of takedowns. Even in the in the Kai Kara France fight, he got 3 takedowns. Asakura gets 3. Ursig, he got 9. Royval, he got 8. Moreno, he got 2. He got 6. So he's getting at least 6 takedowns, and with this being a 5-round fight, you got to think he's going to get a couple takedowns in this fight. The question is, can he submit Joshua Van? Joshua Van's last submission loss, you have to go all the way back to his third pro fight. He got submitted in the second round in 2021. That might happen here. But again, we're talking about a guy in Pantoja who is 36, right? Huge age gap there. And typically that's the age where we start to see fighters decline. Keep in mind, hasn't fought in a while, coming off an injury. I just don't think it's a good mix here, right? So the big thing for Van is obviously going to try and stuff those takedowns and submission defense, which he showed against Taira. He was able to not get submitted, and Taira's a guy that has, a decent amount of submission wins, 8 total, and he wasn't able to submit him. Mind you, Pantoja, in my opinion, better fighter. So we'll see there. But I just think that Pantoja might have some early success in this fight, but I think ultimately with Van's age and just his with everything he's been able to do throughout his career, I think Van will just land better shots. He'll slowly batter away at Pantoja and most likely take a decision, but I could see a later finish too. But Van's not really like a knockout, one-punch knockout guy. Even this last fight, it was a TKO win. Did knock out Bruno Silva with a punch like that. But again, Buenas was a ground and pound finish, right? So I think more likely is a decision here. So I'll be looking for that decision prop in this fight, but I just think it's hard to pick against Joshua Van after that last performance. If they had an immediate rematch, if Van was fighting Pantoja immediately off that fight, I might lean Pantoja just because I think Van was still kind of unproven, but he showed me in that Taira fight, despite getting taken down 8 times, that he is evolving every fight, and he's still so young. He's 24. Like, we're seeing a better fighter each time out. There's way less pressure on him. Pantoja's got to win this, right? He's older. If he loses this, he's not going to get another opportunity, I don't think, anytime soon. So, I'm going Joshua Van by decision. That's going to be my pick for this fight. Don't think that's anything crazy, but that's the way I'm leaning. So let me know your prediction in the comments. Would love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. This is Early Look. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.